Have you ever wondered why the person who pushed you away is often the same person who suddenly realizes your value only after you are gone? Why does it take silence for them to feel your presence? Why does it take distance for them to understand what you meant to them? This is one of the most confusing experiences in human relationships. One day, they seem distant, cold, unreachable. You try harder. You give more. You become more patient. But the more love you offer, the more they seem to pull away. And slowly, without even noticing it, you begin to ask yourself a painful question. Was I ever important to them? But here's the truth that most people never understand about avoidant personalities. Their silence does not always mean they do not care. Sometimes, it means they care more than they know how to handle. Avoidant people are masters at creating distance, not because they enjoy being alone, but because distance feels safer than vulnerability. When emotions become intense, when connection becomes deep, their mind reacts in a very specific way. It tells them to step back, to protect themselves, to escape the feeling before it becomes too powerful. So they withdraw, they become quiet, they act like they do not need anyone, and from the outside it looks like they are unaffected, like they are perfectly fine living without emotional closeness. But the human mind is far more complex than what we see on the surface, and the story does not end where you think it does, because something unexpected begins to happen when you stop chasing them, when you stop trying to convince them, when you stop proving your love again and again. The energy changes. At first they feel relief, space, freedom. This is what their mind believes it wanted all along. No pressure, no expectations, no emotional intensity. But that feeling does not last forever. Slowly, something begins to shift inside them. The quiet they asked for becomes louder than expected. The absence they created starts to feel different from the distance they imagined. And this is where the psychology of the avoidant mind begins to reveal something powerful. Avoidant people are used to people chasing them. They are used to someone always trying to reach them, understand them, or fix the distance between them. But when that suddenly stops, their mind notices. Not immediately, but eventually. And when it does, a strange feeling begins to grow. Curiosity. They begin to wonder why the silence feels different now, why the person who once cared so deeply is no longer trying, why the messages stopped, why the emotional presence that once surrounded them is suddenly gone. And in that quiet moment, something important begins to happen. For the first time, they are forced to face their own emotions, not the emotions they avoided, not the ones they pushed away, but the ones they never allowed themselves to fully feel. This moment is uncomfortable for them, because avoidant people are not trained to sit with emotional loss. They are trained to escape it, to distract themselves, to move forward quickly without looking back. But the mind has a powerful way of bringing unfinished emotions back to the surface. Memories begin to appear, small moments they once ignored, conversations they once dismissed, the patience you showed them, the understanding you gave them, the way you stayed when things became difficult. And slowly something begins to change inside them, not all at once, but piece by piece. Because the truth is simple. Real connection leaves a mark on the human mind, even when someone tries to deny it, even when someone tries to run from it. And this is the moment many people never see coming, the moment when the avoidant person begins to feel the weight of your absence, not the pressure of your love, but the silence of your absence. And those two feelings are very different. Pressure pushes people away, but absence forces people to reflect. This is when the avoidant mind begins asking questions it once ignored. What if that person was different? What if that connection was rare? What if the one person who understood me is no longer here? These questions do not appear immediately. They appear slowly, quietly, almost like a whisper in the back of their mind. But once those questions begin, they become impossible to completely ignore. And this is where the real story begins. Because the moment an avoidant person starts to feel your absence, their emotional world begins to shift in ways they never expected. In the next part of this video, we will explore something even deeper. We will uncover the hidden psychology of the avoidant mind, why they run from love, why they struggle with closeness, and why sometimes the very thing they feared the most becomes the thing they realize they needed all along. And once you understand this psychology, you will begin to see their behavior in a completely different way. The answer is hidden deep inside the psychology of avoidance. Many people misunderstand avoidant behavior. They believe it means indifference. They assume it means a lack of love or emotional depth. But the truth is far more complicated. Avoidant individuals often experience emotions very strongly. The problem is not the absence of feeling, the problem is what those feelings trigger inside them. For someone with an avoidant attachment style, closeness can feel overwhelming. Not because connection is unwanted, but because vulnerability feels dangerous. Their mind learned very early that depending on others can lead to disappointment, rejection, or emotional pain. So they developed a survival strategy. They learned to rely on themselves. Independence became their shield. Emotional distance became their protection. And over time, this pattern turned into a habit so powerful that it feels natural to them. When relationships begin, everything seems easy. At the beginning, there is curiosity, there is excitement, there is room to explore without pressure. In this stage, the avoidant person can appear warm, attentive, and deeply engaged. They enjoy the connection because it still feels safe. But something changes when emotional intimacy begins to grow, when conversations become deeper, when expectations slowly form, when another person starts to matter in a meaningful way. That is when the avoidant mind becomes alert. It is not a logical decision. It is a reflex shaped by years of emotional self-protection. Their brain interprets closeness as risk. Instead of leaning in, they begin to create space. Sometimes it happens subtly. Replies become slower, conversations become shorter, plans become less frequent. Other times, the withdrawal feels sudden and confusing. One moment, everything seems perfect. The next moment, they appear distant, almost unreachable. To the other person, it feels like rejection. But inside the avoidant mind, a different battle is taking place. They begin to feel a quiet pressure building inside them. Not pressure from the relationship itself, but pressure from the emotions it awakens. The more meaningful the bond becomes, the stronger that internal alarm grows. Their thoughts start to shift. They question whether they are losing control of their independence. They worry that emotional closeness might eventually lead to pain. They fear becoming dependent on someone. These thoughts do not appear clearly. They often show up as vague discomfort, a restless feeling, a sense that something is moving too fast or becoming too serious. Instead of confronting these emotions, the avoidant instinct pushes them toward distance. Space becomes their way of calming the internal storm. In their mind, stepping back restores balance. It reduces the emotional intensity they struggle to manage, and for a moment it feels like the right choice. But the mind is complex. Emotional bonds do not simply disappear because someone creates distance. Even when they appear detached, a part of them continues processing the connection. Memories remain active beneath the surface. Feelings that were never expressed remain unfinished. Avoidant individuals often try to silence those emotions by focusing on logic. They convince themselves that independence is better, that they do not truly need anyone, that relationships create unnecessary complications. For a while, this reasoning works. Their daily routine continues. Life moves forward. They appear calm, composed, unaffected, but deep emotional experiences leave traces inside the human mind, especially when the connection involved genuine understanding. The brain remembers how it felt to be seen without judgment. It remembers conversations that felt effortless. It remembers the rare sense of comfort that only certain people can create. These memories do not disappear simply because someone decided to withdraw. They remain stored quietly beneath the surface of awareness. And when the person who once provided that emotional presence is no longer there, the mind eventually begins to compare the difference. Daily life continues, yet something feels slightly incomplete. Interactions with others may feel shallow. Conversations may lack the depth they once experienced. Moments of silence may bring back fragments of the past. This is where the avoidant defense begins to weaken, because avoidance works best when emotional triggers are still present but manageable. When the connection disappears completely, the mind loses the ability to control the narrative. There is no one left to push away, no one left to create distance from, only the echo of what once existed. And this quiet reflection slowly opens a door inside them, a door that leads toward awareness, not sudden realization, but gradual recognition. They begin to understand that the connection they stepped away from was not ordinary. It carried a level of patience and understanding that is difficult to replace. This realization does not happen instantly. It grows slowly through small moments of reflection, through memories that return unexpectedly, through comparisons between past experiences and present reality. Eventually, the mind starts to acknowledge something it once tried to deny. The distance that once felt protective may have also cost them something meaningful, and once that understanding begins to take shape, the emotional landscape inside them changes. Because awareness has a powerful effect on the human mind. When someone finally recognizes the value of what they once had, the past begins to look very different from the present. As that awareness begins to grow, a new emotional experience slowly takes shape inside the avoidant mind. At first, it feels unfamiliar. It does not arrive as a dramatic moment. It arrives quietly, through reflection that happens when life becomes still. Daily routines continue, yet certain memories return without warning. A song, a place, a simple phrase can suddenly remind them of the person who once stood beside them with patience and calm understanding. These reminders do not appear because they are searching for them. They appear because the mind naturally revisits experiences that carry genuine meaning. When someone offered acceptance without pressure, the brain recorded that experience as something valuable. Human beings are wired to remember safety and comfort. Even individuals who spent years protecting their independence cannot erase the impact of sincere connection. Slowly, the avoidant person begins to notice a difference between the present and the past. Conversations with others may feel polite yet distant. Interactions may seem pleasant but shallow. Nothing feels wrong on the surface, yet something is missing beneath it. This comparison awakens curiosity. They begin asking themselves quiet questions during moments of solitude. Why did that relationship feel different? Why did that person understand things others could not see? Why did their presence bring calm instead of pressure? The mind begins reviewing small details that once seemed ordinary. Perhaps it remembers the way that person listened without interrupting. Perhaps it remembers the patience that appeared during difficult moments. Perhaps it remembers how that individual stayed calm when emotions became complicated. These details now appear more meaningful than before. During the relationship, the avoidant person may have viewed those actions as normal. They assumed that level of patience would always exist. They believed that understanding would remain available whenever they needed it. But time creates perspective. Once the connection is gone, the mind begins to recognize the rarity of what it experienced. Genuine understanding is not easy to find. True emotional patience is uncommon. Many people offer attention at the beginning, yet few maintain calm support when situations become difficult. This recognition creates an internal shift. Instead of focusing on independence, the avoidant individual begins reflecting on the unique qualities of that past relationship. The mind slowly realizes that the connection provided something deeper than temporary excitement. It offered emotional stability, and stability is something every human being secretly desires, even those who spent years believing they preferred distance. As this realization deepens, feelings they once ignored start becoming clearer. Regret does not appear as guilt or shame. It appears as quiet recognition that certain choices may have pushed away something meaningful. The avoidant person may begin remembering moments when the other person reached out with care. Moments when support was offered without conditions, moments when understanding was given freely. At the time, those gestures may have felt overwhelming. Emotional closeness triggered protective instincts that encouraged withdrawal. The safest response seemed to be stepping away. Now, with distance creating perspective, those same gestures appear valuable rather than threatening. The mind begins to understand that closeness was never the enemy. The real challenge was the fear connected to vulnerability. Fear has a powerful influence over human behavior. It convinces people to protect themselves even when protection leads to loss. It persuades the mind that safety requires isolation. But once fear fades slightly, clarity begins to replace it. Avoidant individuals are not immune to reflection. When they recognize the emotional depth of what they experienced, curiosity gradually transforms into appreciation. They start to acknowledge the rare qualities that existed within that relationship. Patience that did not demand perfection, kindness that remained present even during difficult conversations, understanding that allowed space for personal growth. These qualities become clearer with time because comparison reveals their importance. New interactions may feel pleasant, yet they rarely recreate the same emotional atmosphere. This difference does not go unnoticed. The mind begins to recognize that not every connection offers the same level of depth. Some relationships remain light and temporary. Others carry a quiet strength that allows two people to grow together. That type of connection is uncommon. Once the avoidant person begins to understand this, something inside them changes. The protective walls that once felt necessary start to feel unnecessary. Emotional distance begins to appear less like safety and more like isolation. This shift in perception does not erase the past. It does not instantly remove the habits built over many years, but it opens the door to a new way of thinking. Instead of seeing closeness as a threat, they start to see it as a possibility. Instead of focusing only on independence, they begin to understand the value of shared understanding. Human beings are not designed to live completely alone. No matter how strong someone appears, connection remains a natural part of emotional well-being. When someone realizes they once experienced a connection built on patience, honesty, and calm support, the mind naturally wonders if that experience could exist again. That thought carries quiet power, because once appreciation replaces fear, the past begins to look different. Moments that were once dismissed begin to shine with new meaning. And within that realization, something important begins to grow. Respect for the person who once stood beside them with genuine care. A deeper understanding of the connection they once held. Over time, that quiet understanding grows stronger. It no longer feels like a small thought that appears and disappears. It becomes a clear awareness that something meaningful once existed, and once the human mind reaches that level of awareness, it becomes very difficult to ignore. This is the moment when the avoidant person begins to see the past with new eyes. At one point, creating emotional space felt like the safest decision. It felt like the right way to maintain control. Independence seemed like strength. Detachment seemed like stability. But clarity often arrives after distance. When the mind finally slows down and reviews the past honestly, it starts to notice something important. The connection that once felt overwhelming was not built on pressure. It was built on patience. It was built on genuine care. It was built on someone who tried to understand rather than judge. That kind of presence is rare. Many people offer attention during happy moments. Many people show interest when everything feels easy, but very few remain calm, supportive, and patient when emotions become complicated. The avoidant person begins to remember those moments clearly. Moments when patience replaced frustration. Moments when kindness appeared instead of criticism. Moments when the other person stayed present instead of walking away. These memories carry emotional weight because they reveal something powerful. Real connection was there. It was not imagined. It was not temporary excitement. It was something deeper. And when that realization fully settles inside the mind, a powerful truth becomes impossible to deny. Some people are not easily replaced. Human life is full of encounters. Many faces appear and disappear as time moves forward, yet only a small number of individuals leave a lasting emotional mark. Those are the people who see beyond surface conversations. Those are the people who bring calm understanding into complicated moments. Those are the people who offer support without trying to control. Once the avoidant person recognizes that such a connection once existed in their life, something important changes inside them. Their perspective shifts. Instead of viewing the past as something they escaped, they begin seeing it as something valuable they once experienced. They begin to understand that emotional closeness was not the danger they believed it to be. The real challenge was fear. Fear created distance. Fear created hesitation. Fear created the illusion that independence alone would bring peace. But emotional awareness has a way of dissolving illusions. When the mind recognizes that a rare connection once existed, the value of that experience becomes clearer with every passing moment. It becomes clear that not every relationship carries the same depth. Not every person brings the same level of patience, kindness, and understanding. This recognition creates a new form of respect. Respect for the individual who once stood beside them. Respect for the effort that was given without demands. Respect for the emotional support that was offered during uncertain moments. The avoidant person begins to understand something that many people realize only after significant reflection. True connection is not about control. It is not about possession. It is about two individuals creating a space where honesty and understanding can exist without fear. That type of space cannot be created easily. It requires patience. It requires emotional maturity. It requires someone willing to see another person beyond their fears and protective habits. Once this truth becomes clear, the avoidant individual recognizes the deeper lesson hidden within their past experience. The person who once offered genuine understanding was not weak for caring deeply. That person showed strength through patience. They showed strength by remaining calm during moments when distance appeared. That kind of strength leaves a lasting impression. Even after time passes, even after life moves forward, the memory of that emotional stability remains present inside the mind. This is why realization often arrives later. Clarity grows slowly. It develops through reflection. It develops through comparison between past experiences and present interactions. Eventually, the avoidant person understands something important about human connection. Not every relationship will offer depth. Not every encounter will provide emotional safety. And when someone enters life with patience, kindness, and genuine understanding, that presence becomes a rare gift. Once that awareness exists, the avoidant person can no longer pretend the connection meant nothing. The mind understands its value. The heart recognizes its importance. And within that recognition lies a powerful life lesson. Fear can push people away from meaningful experiences. Protection can sometimes create unnecessary distance. But awareness brings growth. When someone finally understands the importance of the connection they once had, they gain something valuable. They gain emotional clarity. They gain a deeper appreciation for genuine relationships. They gain the wisdom to recognize real connection when it appears again. Because life teaches powerful lessons through experience. Some lessons arrive early, others arrive later through reflection and understanding. Yet once a person truly recognizes the value of patience, kindness, and emotional support, that knowledge stays with them. And the person who once offered that rare understanding will always remain a meaningful part of that realization.